$145 million max extension, and Chet Holmgren just got a big extension too. So let's talk about, because we may not be too far away from a $100 million per year contract. So let's talk about, these, new contracts that just happened and where I think these contracts might end up. So if you didn't see, Devin Booker just signed a 2-year, $145 million max extension, which is like $75 million per year, if my math is correct. And that is the highest in NBA history. Devin Booker just broke a record for most or highest annual salary in the NBA, which was just broken by Shea only like 8 days ago when he signed his max extension. So 8 days later, Devin Booker breaks it. So shout out to Devin Booker for breaking a record in the NBA. So obviously, with that kind of salary, and what the crazy thing about it is, 2 years ago, it feels like, unless my memory, serves me incorrectly, it was just 2 years ago where someone making $50 million seemed like, whoa, that's the big money, right? And it was only like 10 years ago, maybe even less, honestly. But like 2016, maybe when the cap spiked, where someone making like $35 million was like, you made it. Like, you are a superstar. You're making the biggest of biggest bucks, right? So less than a decade later, we now have someone making $75 million approximately per year. Also keep in mind with these contracts, like, these players have like incentives in them and stuff like that. So it's not always that these players get the total amount. We see the biggest possible amount that they can make, because that is, what they signed for. But like, some of them have incentives and stuff like that in there. Like, I don't know, let's just use an example, like making the All-NBA team. Well, it makes you eligible for Supermax, but you know what I'm saying, like making an All-Star team. Like, some of them have some incentives in there, which gets them to that max number. And then if they don't, reach certain incentives, they don't necessarily get the max number. If I'm pretty sure that's how it works. But regardless, they're still going to make a good amount of money, even if they don't make all the, incentives. They'll still make a good amount, right? So whether or not Devin Booker gets the total of $75 million per year, it's still a fact that he can. And then Chet Holmgren just signed a 5-year, I believe, $250 million extension. So the numbers just keep going up and up. And something to keep in mind about Chet, which I'm going to talk about in this video, which also is really good for OKC, is that his contract doesn't kick in for 2 more years. Like, he still has 2 years left on his rookie deal. So yes, he did sign the extension, but they still have 2 years of Chet on his rookie deal, which again, I'm going to talk about a little bit later in this video, as to, how that's really important for them if they want to, keep on building a championship team. Because obviously, once Chet's money kicks in, and then obviously Jalen Williams is going to get paid, sometime soon as well, that's going to affect, their ability to build a deep roster. So keep that in mind for a little bit. But with Devin Booker signing a $75 million max extension, or 145, but 75 per year. And then I told you last live stream, they are going to have probably the max dead cap space when they buy out, Bradley Beal, which means they are going to have like $23 million or whatever on the books automatically. Like, even if Devin Booker was not on the roster. So what that means is, let's just say 23 million plus 75, that's going to give them 108 or 98 million dollars on their salary cap just for one player. I know Devin Booker's salary obviously doesn't include that, but I'm just saying, like, total, just for that, they already have $98 million. And I don't know what percentage of the cap that ends up being for Devin Booker, but I think the cap for next year is 167. So I'm not going to do that math quickly in my head right this second, because I don't want to say a wrong number, but 75 of 167. That's kind of the numbers we are talking about here. Somebody said, what are your thoughts on Booker? I'm actually talking about him right now. So I definitely, well, obviously, if you're Devin Booker, first of all, you have a chance to get $75 million per year. You're not turning that down. Like, you're just not. And Devin Booker has made it pretty clear that he wants to stay with the Suns probably his whole career, and the Suns have been committed to him since basically day one. So this wasn't surprising that he signed. We all kind of knew this was coming. I still say that they are not ready to contend for a championship, at least for a couple of years. It's going to be at least a couple of year rebuild, and then, we'll see. Even then, I don't know. The West is loaded, and it's not getting any easier, and I don't know. Like, 2021 seemed like it might have been their, best chance right now, but we'll see, what kind of roster they end up building. So I'm not sure if they're going to be able to build a championship contender in the next couple of years. But again, if you're Devin Booker, you're taking that money. Like, that is a lot of money. And again, he wants to be there anyway. So it's like a no-brainer for him. Like, he wants to be there. So he gets to stay where he wants to stay, and he gets his money. So it's easy, easy decision for him. Do I think that it might make it hard for them to build a championship contender, though? Again, that remains to be seen, because I just told you his new salary, which doesn't kick in yet, but when it does kick in, combined with the dead cap space from Bradley Beal, because Bradley Beal's, money is going to be stretched over 5 years, the same way that Damian Lillard's is, they're automatically going to have almost $100 million on their books. So building a championship contender around Devin Booker may be hard, especially once that money kicks in. So is that going to affect their ability to build the roster? I think it might. And this is the tricky part with the new CBA. It's like, I don't know if I said this in a previous live stream, but it kind of feels like players are going to be sort of forced in a way to choose money or winning in some aspect. And what I mean by that is, like, we saw, let's use Jalen Brunson as an example. We saw Jalen Brunson take like $100 million pay cut. We're talking about $100 million. It doesn't matter who you are. $100 million is $100 million. Obviously, he's going to be comfortable, with the money he's making, but it's still $100 million. But he clearly saw the new CBA and the restrictions it was going to have. And as much as he and everybody else would like to take max money, it's really hard to build out the depth of your roster if your star player is taking the max money, especially someone, let's just say Jason Tatum's caliber, who unfortunately has the Achilles tear now, but like, because he's an all-NBA player, he not only gets max, he gets super max. So his money is even greater. And there are obviously a bunch of players like that. And it's like, you like, turning down that kind of wealth and that kind of money is difficult. Like, again, doesn't matter who you are, that's a lot of money. And because of the restriction of the CBA, it's kind of like you might have to choose between taking a pay cut, which you earn that money, right? Like, they earn those supermax, these kind of contracts. But if they want to win a championship, they may be forced, to take a pay cut. So, like, I feel like it is a tricky time not only to be a free agent, but just a superstar player in the NBA too. Because I feel like someone who's in the mid-level range, it's also difficult because of the CBA, where, like, if a team is in the second tax apron, they can't have access to the mid-level. So in a way, it's actually taking away some money from some players. Like, someone who would get the mid-level now has to take a veteran minimum because there is just only access to so many mid-levels available. So honestly, it's like, it's kind of unfair to, like, these players who, aren't or may not be able to get the money that they have earned. Like, again, back to the mid-level player, because all 30 teams don't have access to their mid-level, whereas before this new CBA, every team had access to their mid-level. So you could see 30 different guys. get that 5 point whatever million or 7 million or whatever it is. The full taxpayer mid-level is like 14.1 million. So imagine someone having to take a $14 million or $13 million pay cut where they are not someone who is likely going to get a supermax contract after, right? Like the difference between someone like a Jason Tatum and stuff like that, even if he took a pay cut, right, from his supermax to, you know, make the roster have more depth, he would still make, you know, at least 30 million, depending on what kind of pay cut he took. But we're talking about someone going from 14 million to 1 million or 1.5 million. And I'm not here to say like, oh, that means they're not making any money. Like 1.5 million is still 1.5 million. Like, please don't get it twisted. I am not saying they should be complaining about making $1 million. But you have to think about it in the terms of like, they earn that 14 million and they can't even have access to it because this new CBA made these rules where teams literally can't pay players. And it's like a little bit unfair. And again, I understand, you know, the CBA was trying to prevent the super teams and all that stuff and whatever, but like, it's kind of hurting the players who aren't necessarily superstars. And even those players, again, may have to take pay cuts in order to, you know, have their roster have depth. But it's like, I don't know. I'm not a fan of this new CBA. I haven't been since it was released. I feel like there are too many restrictions and it's just, it's like one way or another, you can't either build out your roster, you can't keep your players. This is something else I said. It's like, they also want players to stay where they're drafted, right? How can a team keep players that they drafted if after a few years when all of them get paid, they have to let some of them go because now they can't even build out the depth of their roster because they paid, let's go to OKC, for example, because I said I would talk about them. Now they just paid Shea, Chet, and then when they get to Jalen, all three of those guys, let's say they max out. Well, they were all drafted by them. They were all developed by the team. So you would think, oh, that is what the NBA wants. But if all three of them are making max money, they don't have money to pay these other guys. So then they can't have depth. So then they have to let one of them go. So then how are teams supposed to, like, it's like, what's the word? It's like, I can't think of the word, but it's like, if you do it, good. If you don't, it's not good. I can't think of the word. I can't think of the saying. I'm so sorry. But it's basically like, you can't win. Like, you can't win. Like, you draft well, you develop well, and you still have to pay for it, right? Like, you can't get the roster you want, even though you didn't go out there and just paid all the best free agents to come to your team, which is like, you know, something they were trying to prevent. You drafted these guys and they can't even all stay there because if you keep all three of them, eventually you can't build out the roster. So I feel like there are a lot of flaws in the CBA. Now, again, I always say it's really hard, you know, to be the NBA. Everyone's going to complain. I'm clearly complaining right now. So, like, I get it. Everybody's a critic. Fair enough. It's very, very hard. So I'm not saying I could be the commissioner of the NBA. I am not saying I could do the, you know, the job of the commissioner. But what I'm saying is, and I'm pointing out, it's just like, it seems like what they were trying to prevent, they are just, it just seems like a circular loop. Like, it's just going to keep occurring regardless. Like, players are going to be forced out at some point, or they have to take a massive pay cut. And, you know, at some point, is that really fair that all these players have to take all these pay cuts? I don't know. Fair, maybe not the right word, because I understand we're talking about millionaires here. And people hear, oh, they have to take, you know, a pay cut from 50 million to 30 million. Like, people don't feel bad for them. But at the same time, like, when you earn that money, it's kind of like, I should be able to get that money. So I understand both sides. So just going quickly to Chet, which is what I was kind of just, you know, hinting at, is that, yeah, his money doesn't kick in now. But when it kicks in like a couple of years, what is OKC going to do? Because they're going to have to pay Jalen. And again, this is what I just said. how are they going to pay? I mean, we don't know that Hartenstein and Caruso and Lou Dort are all going to be there at that point, but what are they going to do when they get to that point and they have to pay all those guys? They have to pay Hartenstein, Caruso, Lou Dort. They still got so many guys on the bench. Like, the second apron is going to kick in real fast, and they're going to have to make tough decisions. And so that's kind of why I made a video a few weeks ago talking about our dynasty's over. And I saw a few people say OKC is the next dynasty. And my thing is, in terms of like age and, you know, potential production and stuff like that, yeah, they have the opportunity to be that because they have so much time and they're healthy right now. But what I was saying is like, if they win the next 3 rings, then sure. But like, do we think they're going to win 3 rings in a row before, you know, all their max contracts kicks in and they're forced to make these tough decisions? I don't think so. And that's why I'm like, I don't know about them being a dynasty or anybody being a dynasty right now, because I don't think they're going to win the next 2 in a row, which would make them sort of a dynasty. And the max contracts are going to kick in. They're going to have to make tough decisions. So I think it's unfortunate, but that's my opinion on that. So thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this live